Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today we're having WINGSTOP and we are also going to be doing a true crime. Highly requested. You guys really like my true crime. This one is going to be a little bit, what's the word? Gruesome. This story is pretty gruesome, so if you have a weak stomach, maybe come back to a different true crime. I know a lot of my true crimes have been about murder, but yeah, so the story I'm going to be talking about today is the murder of Shanda Sharer. But first, let's get into this food. So I have the original hot, we have mango habanero, and then WINGSTOP now has two new flavors. They're of limited time only. So this one is the harissa lemon pepper, and then this one, let me see, the ancho honey glaze. So I'm excited to try those two. And then we have some Cajun fries, Cajun seasoned fries, veggie sticks, and then some Cajun corn. So I think I'm gonna try this one first, and I have blue cheese here. So you can see the lemon pepper, but it definitely has the harissa flavor. It's kind of a curry flavor almost, which I'm pretty sure is what a lot of red curries are made out of. I think, I don't know. Those are good. And then this one is the ancho chili pepper. I forget what I said. Oops, I should have tried it without. It's sweet, and then it has like a little kick to it. Those are really good. I don't know. The flavors are different, so it's hard to say which one I like best. Okay. And I'm just drinking water. Okay, so let me get right into the story, because on my last videos, you guys were, not everybody, but I had some complaints about it taking too long to get to the story. So, and I have it here because there's just a lot of information. So just in case I forget, if you see me looking down, and when I do these true crimes, I don't want to paint the victims in a bad light, or you know, I try to do it with respect to the family, or to the victim and the victim's family. And if I'm chewing fast, it's because I'm trying to get through the story. I tend to chew pretty fast anyways. So, Shonda Scherer was a 12-year-old girl. She was tortured and burned to death in 1992. She was from Indiana. Her parents were divorced. Her mother had been divorced twice, and then after the second divorce, her mom decided to move to New Albany, Indiana. And by moving there, Shonda could be closer to her dad, so she'd be able to see her dad more and be closer to him. She attended Hazelwood Middle School, and there she got, she was a kid who got good grades, had good friends. She was a cheerleader. She played volleyball. However, in September, early in the school year, when she transferred over from where she was before, she had gotten into a fight with this girl named Amanda Hevrin. Now, Amanda Hevrin, she was a 14-year-old. she was known as like somebody you don't mess with. She was known to get into fights. And Shonda had just turned 12. She was just barely 12. She moved to this new school. She gets into a fight with this girl named Amanda. They end up reconciling their differences. Because of the fight, they both got detention, and then while in detention, they resolved their issues and became good friends. Their friendship ended up getting stronger, and they would write love letters to each other, some of which were explicit. Shonda's mom didn't like her being friends with Amanda because Shonda's grades they were failing. She kept getting in more and more trouble. And then in October, the school dance comes around. Amanda and Shonda go to the dance together. And while they're at the dance, Amanda's ex-girlfriend, Melinda Lovelace, confronts Shonda and basically wants to fight her, saying that she stole her boyfriend and she's trying to be like her, blah, 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 you know. Amanda ends up breaking it up. And ever since then, Melinda just became enraged and was very jealous. She didn't like Amanda being with Shonda. So Melinda would publicly threaten her. Melinda would publicly threaten Shonda. Melinda would also tell Amanda and write Amanda about how she wanted Shonda dead. Now, a little background behind Melinda. Melinda's 16 years old. So she's 4 years older than Shonda. 2 years older than Amanda. And she came from a very rough upbringing. Her dad was abusive verbally and physically. There's rumors, I don't think it was ever proven, or I don't think she ever admitted to it, but that he sexually abused her. Her dad slept in her bed until the age of 14. And her dad would also rape her mom in front of her and her sisters. And would also let his friends borrow Melinda's mom, like for sexual favors and stuff. This led to her mom becoming suicidal and landing in the hospital multiple times because of it. And then finally her mom divorced her dad. Her dad moved to Florida and rarely kept in touch. So because of her home life, she got in trouble a lot. She was this very beautiful girl. She was open about how she was lesbian, which was rare back in the day because, you know, not very many people were open about it, about their sexuality like they are today. But she was failing her classes so bad that she ended up getting held back for 1 grade. So that's a little background about Melinda Lovelace. Shonda's parents found out about the love letters being sent between Amanda and their daughter. They did not like it, so they chose to transfer her to a Catholic school. They transferred her to Our Lady of Perpetual Help Catholic School. So even though Shonda was going to a different school, her and Amanda never broke up. Amanda continued writing letters to her. Only this time they were being sent to her house, to Shonda's house. Now Shonda, when she transferred over, she was on the basketball team, so she had a pretty busy school life, and her mom made sure of that. So because of that, Shonda wasn't returning or writing back to Amanda as much as Amanda would have liked. Amanda and Shonda grow more distant. Her mom is trying to keep her, busy with school. So, Melinda still had it out for Shonda. Because Amanda was, in love with her.
January 10th, 1992.
So, on the night of June, there's this rock concert. That Melinda is going to, but she's being picked up by this girl named Lori. Melinda and Lori had been spending a lot of time together, starting towards the end of December. They had been spending a lot of time together. Lori Tackett, she's 17 years old, 1 year older than Melinda, 5 years older than Shonda. She came from a Christian household. She was self-harming to the point where she had to be mentally hospitalized. She was then diagnosed with having borderline personality disorder. She was very into paranormal activity and vampires. And she just gave off that vibe that it was somebody that, maybe a lot of parents, wouldn't want you hanging around with this girl. She ultimately dropped out of high school in 1991. Lori was going to be picking up Melinda the night of this rock concert. But Lori ends up picking up 2 other girls before picking up Melinda. And those girls are Hope Rippey. Hope was 15 years old at the time. She was friends with Lori. She also self-harmed, and her parents did not like her spending time with Lori. And then the other girl was Toni Lawrence. She was 15 also. She was really good friends with Hope. She also self-harmed, and she didn't know who Lori was. The night of the rock concert, Lori picks up Hope. Hope and Toni both get into the car. This is the first time that Toni ever met Lori. And Toni automatically doesn't like the vibe that Lori's getting off immediately. And then Lori proceeded to ask Hope, "Did you tell her? Did you tell her yet?" And Hope was like, "What? Tell her what?" And Lori said, "We're going to kill a girl tonight." And when Toni heard this, she thought it was just some sick joke. Some sick, twisted joke. But it didn't start to sink into her until they got to Melinda's house. So they went to go pick up Melinda. And Melinda's walking to the car, and she has this big kitchen knife. So when Melinda got into the car, she was telling Hope and Toni that she wanted to scare this little girl. And that's what they were going to do. They were going to scare this little girl tonight. This little girl named Shonda. Hope and Toni had no idea who Shonda was. They had never met her. I don't think Lori even had ever met Shonda. And she was saying she was trying to scare her because she stole her girlfriend and she was trying to copy her. So 8:00 p.m., they show up to Shonda's house. Now, Shonda is staying at her dad's house. I'm not sure how they knew that Shonda was there, but they showed up to her dad's house at 8 o'clock p.m. and Shonda answered. And Melinda stayed in the car, ducking down. Melinda hid in the car because she knew that if Shonda saw her, she wouldn't come out. She would know that something was up. Hope and Tony are the ones that went to the door. Shonda didn't know who these girls were, but Shonda wanted to see Amanda. So she told them, come back at midnight when my dad's asleep. So the girls go back to the car and they tell Lori and Melinda what Shonda had said, and then they proceed to go to the rock concert. So at 12 a.m., midnight, the girls are on their way to Shonda's house from the rock concert. And on the way there, Melinda was expressing how excited she was to kill this little girl, but also said that she just wanted to scare her. And Hope and Tony, they couldn't believe what they were hearing. They thought maybe she was just, gonna scare her a little bit, that Melinda wasn't really gonna kill her. But Tony was getting more and more concerned as they got closer to Shonda's dad's house. So much so that by the time they got to Shonda's dad's house, Tony didn't even want to get out of the car to go get Shonda. So Hope just went. Now again, Melinda lay down in the back seat of the car so that Shonda wouldn't see her. Then Hope returned to the car with Shonda. Melinda's still laying in the back seat with the knife in her hand. And that's when they start talking. Shonda gets in the car and they start talking about Amanda. Then Hope proceeded to tell Shonda that Amanda was waiting for them at the Witch's Castle. Now, the Witch's Castle is a popular place that people would go to. Teenagers would go to hang out. It's believed to be haunted. Omar Gosh, here on YouTube, he actually did a video of him going there, and he explains a little bit about the murder, about Shanda Scherer's case. But yeah, you can see what it looks like if you go over to his channel. I think it's named The Witch's Castle. I'm not sure what exactly the title of the video is. So, and a lot of teens would go there to do demonic rituals and stuff. So that place was known to be haunted. And so they told Shonda that's where Amanda was waiting for her so they could talk. And so they're on their way, and then all of a sudden Melinda jumps up from behind the seat and scares Shonda. She grabbed her hair and then put the knife to her throat. Now this girl's 12 years old. I mean, she's not expecting Melinda to be there. She's hoping to go see her. I mean, I guess they're still girlfriend because they never really broke up. Shonda pleaded with Melinda not to hurt her. And that's when Melinda was basically shut up and wanted to know about her and Amanda's sexual life. Her sexual relationship. So they drive to the Witch's Castle, and that's where they tie Shonda up. And then Lori proceeds to scare Shonda by saying how the place is full of dead people. And of course, this girl's 12 years old, so she's terrified. She's tied up. She's with this girl that is her girlfriend's ex, who threatened to kill her or threatened to beat her up before. And Lori continued to taunt her. She even went as far as to light a smiley face shirt on fire, telling Shonda that was going to be her in a little bit. So they tie her up, and then they leave the Witch's Castle to look for a gas station. Shonda knew that they were looking for a gas station, so she told Lori that there was one by her house that might still be open. But Lori thought that if they went to one that was close to her house, Shonda would try to get away and call for help, and then they'd, ultimately be in trouble. So she then covered her with a blanket. They continue driving around, and they're in the area of Madison, Indiana. Shonda lived in New Albany, Indiana. The distance between them is like 50 miles. They were driving around in Madison, which is where Lori lives. They're out in the woods driving around looking for an open gas station. Well, they're in the woods, and this is where the ultimate torture began. Now, if you're sensitive, I suggest that you maybe fast forward a few minutes, because it is very cruel what these girls did to Shonda. Lori and Melinda, they punched and kicked her, and they tried to cut her throat with a knife, but it was so dull that it just wasn't going through. And then they proceeded to use the knife to stab her in the chest and the stomach area. This was just Melinda and Lori. Tony and Hope, they stayed in the car watching everything that was going on. Everything that Lori and Melinda were doing to Shonda. Hope ended up getting out of the car at one point and holding Shonda to restrain her from fighting back. And Melinda and Lori proceeded to strangle her with rope until she passed out, and then they put her in the trunk of Lori's car. And they drove back to Lori's house. And then they both proceeded to tell Tony and Hope that Shonda was dead in the back of the trunk. Lori realized that Shonda was making noise, so she wasn't dead. Oh, and they were at Lori's house. So Lori went back out to the car. She continued to stab Shonda until she was quiet. So then after that, Lori and Melinda get in the car. They leave Tony and Hope at Lori's house. Lori and Melinda get in the car and they proceed to drive off. And it's like a heavily wooded area. They're in the country, not a very big city. And so every time that they would hear Shonda make a noise, they'd pull over, go back to the trunk, and then they would stab her and then beat her with a tire iron. So this went on for hours. She just wouldn't. Shonda just was surviving. You know, she was a very strong 12-year-old girl that was doing her best to survive. They end up back at Lori's house to pick up Hope and Tony. And then they go out driving again in the woods. Both Lori and Melinda wanted to show Hope and Tony what they had done to Shonda. Like, they were proud of what they were doing and they felt like they needed to show the other two girls. But Tony refused to look. Hope looked. And then Hope sprayed Shonda with a bottle of Windex and asked her and told her, "You're not looking so hot now, are you?" Well, the girls get back in the car and they go to a gas station that's open. They buy a bottle of Pepsi to drink. But then Lori ended up dumping the Pepsi out and filling it with gasoline. Once they have the gasoline, they get in the car and drive up north to Lemon Road. Lemon Road is this long road that's just countryside. Miles and miles of countryside and fields. These corns are really good. So they ended up stopping on Lemon Road. Lori and Hope then wrapped Shonda in a blanket. They took her out of the trunk and wrapped her in a blanket. And Shonda was still alive. And then they placed her body on the edge of the fields. So off to the side of the road, but like on the edge. So it's still pretty close to the road. You could see it from the road. You could see where she was from the road. And then Lori poured the gasoline over Shonda and then proceeded to set her on fire. After that, they left her. They just left her. And guess where they went? They went to eat at McDonald's after they were done torturing this girl and lit her on fire on the side of the road to die. Tony, she was hysterical, couldn't believe what had just happened, was just like ready to go home. She used the payphone and she called her friend to tell her what had happened. Then Melinda and Lori decided that they needed to get Tony home. So after Dropping the girls off at home, Melinda called Amanda and told her that Shonda was dead. Amanda, when she heard this, she didn't believe it and wanted to meet with Melinda later on that day. Lori and Melinda both went to pick up Amanda at her house and then went back to Melinda's house. Once they got inside, Melinda started crying hysterically, and she was telling Amanda what she had done. Amanda still didn't believe it. She couldn't fathom what was being told to her. But then Lori showed Amanda the trunk of her car, and you could see the blood stains, and then that's when Amanda instantly freaked out and realized that what they were saying was true. Amanda then needed to go home. She demanded to be taken home. She couldn't believe what she had just saw, what she was hearing. It was her girlfriend. That same morning, Shonda's body was found by two men. They were hunting for quail, and they saw something off of the side of the road that didn't look quite right, so they decided to check on it. They were brothers. One of the brothers, Don and Ralph Foley, Don thought it was just a doll, like a blow-up doll that somebody had just thrown, off to the side of the road. They get up closer to get a closer look, and they realize it's a burnt, dead body. Then the two brothers leave. They go back home. They alert the police of what they had just seen, and the police told them to go back to the site where they found the body and wait there until the sheriff shows up. At about 12 o'clock p.m., the sheriff shows up to the location where Shonda's body is. Upon arriving at the scene, the sheriff shows up and he sees that there's this burnt body of a woman that's just beyond recognition, whose body looked like it had been posed in a sexual manner, so the sheriff believed that Shonda had been sodomized. Shonda was at her dad's house the night that she got taken, or kidnapped essentially, and so her dad wakes up that morning. He's looking for Shonda, but when he didn't see her in her room, he didn't think much of it. He thought maybe she was sleeping in the family room in the basement. And when he couldn't find her, he called her friends first. They said they hadn't seen her, and then he called his ex-wife. He told her that she couldn't find Shonda. He couldn't find her, and that she was missing. His wife came over, and they filed a missing persons report, and they continued to search for Shonda in the area. This same day at 8:20 p.m., Tony, the one that pretty much didn't want to have anything to do with it, the one that was skeptical about Lori, didn't know anybody else but Hope, she walks into the police station at 8:20 p.m. This is in Madison, 50 minutes away. And then that's when she was frantically trying to tell the officer what had happened earlier that night about the rock concert, how they drove to New Albany and they picked up this little girl named Shonda and all the torture that was being done to her. When she was telling, she couldn't remember the exact time that everything happened, but she remembered the locations where they were at when the incidents happened. And she also remembered Shonda's address. So then the officer there, Officer Henry, he decided to contact the other police department to see if there was a missing persons report at that address. And of course, he found out that there was one for a girl 12 years old named Shanda Sharer. Now, Shonda's body was burnt so badly that they couldn't immediately identify her, so they had to use dental records. And when the dental records came back, it was undeniable that it was Shonda's body that was found. On January 12th, the very next day, Lori and Melinda were both arrested. All four girls were charged as adults, and they all accepted plea bargains to escape the death penalty. Lori and Melinda were both sentenced to 60 years in Indiana Women's Prison. In 2004, Hope, her sentence was reduced from 60 years to 35 years because she did an appeal. Tony pled guilty to one charge of criminal confinement, and then she was also sentenced to a maximum of 20 years. Shonda's dad, he became suicidal. He tried everything possible to commit suicide. He was unsuccessful. He ultimately died of alcohol abuse in 2005, and he was 53 years old. Melinda in prison, she became this person who like trains dogs. So she does that, and Shonda's mom ended up, just recently actually, ended up donating a dog to the organization that Melinda works for at the prison, and in honor of Shonda's name. So Lori was also released on the 26th anniversary of Shonda's death, which is heartbreaking to hear, but she was ultimately released last year, January 11th, on parole. And then Melinda is set to be released this year in September 2019. So there have been Lifetime movies made about this. There have been a few different true crime episodes done about this. This case it was nationwide. Just the severity, the horrific death that this little girl endured, and it's just so sad. My heart goes out to her family, because it kind of hits close to home to me, because my daughter she's going to be 12 this year, and that's the same age that Shonda was, and I couldn't imagine my daughter leaving in the middle of the night with who she thinks are friends and then being murdered. Like, I don't know, it's just crazy to think. So this case touched me. It's just so sad. It's such a sad case. So yeah, that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Go check out the 2 new flavors at WINGSTOP if you haven't. And if you liked what you saw here today, please consider subscribing, like this video, comment down below, and I'll see you guys in my next video.